Hi, that was a hell of an introduction. Thank you, guys. And I appreciate mentioning that I was a late entry, because hence the note cards. You guys are just going to have to bear with me. I might read a little bit. But and they said some of it already, which is that I've had a big year, or a big couple years. I wrote and directed a short film, developed it into a TV show. So anyway, I developed that into a TV show, and it's about to premiere in 3 days. Given that the ACLU just launched an investigation into mind-bogglingly sexist hiring practices in Hollywood, I don't know if you guys know this, but even though I literally barely have the upper arm strength to hold myself up during sex, okay? It's very bad, you guys. I have a better chance, percentage-wise, of becoming an underwater welder than a female director. You guys, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. It's really not good. I'm gonna go back and just show you guys again. It's not good. It's very, very bad. It's so bad, you guys. So given these, wait, hold on, that's not yet. Okay, so given these dismal odds, right, people, especially women, have started to ask me how I did it. So what's sort of hilarious about where I am in my career is that it could all fall apart on Monday. If nobody tunes into the show, I'm pretty much over. So what I can do, though, is talk about what I've learned in my 2+ years in Hollywood, and just hope that it applies to women in other really objectively sexist fields like tech, finance, and advertising. Okay, so back to the question at hand. What does it take to make it in Hollywood? So in my very limited experience, you have to be a rabid pit bull, okay? This is a rabid pit bull. With a nuclear bomb in its chest, okay? And the political grace of George Clooney. Winning combo. Okay, so I know this might look a little crazy, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break it down for you guys. I'm gonna get to that card too, is what I'm gonna do. Okay, so rabid pit bull, tenacity is what I'm talking about, a good old-fashioned lockjaw, finding your dream, grabbing onto it, and never, ever letting go, no matter what. I started writing, that's the rabid pit bull again, hold on. This is my first book. I started writing when I was 5. I don't know if you guys can read that. Urgent cries ignored. Feel bad for my mom. It was awful. Okay? It's very dramatic. That's blood coming off. Urgent cries ignored. Okay? I figured out I was a director at 16. Also feel bad for my mom. This is not fun to deal with. But since then, I haven't wavered once, okay? So for me, finding directing was like a toddler finally being able to speak. It was truly the first time I could ever adequately express myself. And, since then, my commitment to the craft of filmmaking hasn't wavered once. But in those ensuing years, I've been told no, honestly, more times than I can even count. And no is a totally healthy and normal part of life. But the part that has been almost unmanageably heartbreaking is that I am constantly passed over for guys who have way less experience and less vision for the project than I do. And that's not a feeling or an opinion. I have to say this ACLU lawsuit for all of us is pretty validating because there's kind of a sense that maybe there's something wrong with her, or maybe there's a reason why she doesn't get jobs. There's not really that much wrong with me. I'm not that fucked up. So I mean, I'm not way more fucked up than all the guys that are getting the jobs. So it's really true. It happens. But at every one of those pretty humiliating turns, and it is pretty humiliating, I have just held on like a pit bull and repeated like a broken record. I'm a writer-director, I'm a writer-director, I'm a writer-director. Okay? Because I had a nuclear bomb inside my chest. I had the sensation that there were stories inside of me, and if I didn't get them out, they were actually going to kill me. This was like a physical sensation at times. Nuclear bomb. So wait, that's not yet. You guys, it'll be fine. It's about to get fine. So I got into indie filmmaking to change the world, and I ended up working in reality TV because I had to pay my rent. So I was dying inside. This is a picture of me. Wait, that's the nuclear bomb. That's the picture of me when I was working in reality TV. I was a feminist, identified at 5 when I wrote my first book, feminist, working 364 days a year. And wait for it, you guys are going to love this, on The Bachelor. Okay? I had gotten stuck into a contract so ironclad, and I actually had not even agreed to work on The Bachelor. I was stuck, and I could not get out. I had no time to write, see my friends, do anything else for 3 years. Okay? So during this time, I was so pent up and angry that I started a band called Mean Streak. Okay, we would play at night and on weekends, and my role in the band was to drink just like kind of unbelievable amounts of Smirnoff Ice. I mean, like, not even comprehensible. Scream myself hoarse. Okay? I would sort of like break guitars and stuff and usually end up crying. That is how I stayed sane, okay? And my bandmate is here today, and he's gonna come up later again. Eventually all that not writing and not directing and making sexist television actually made me sick. I literally got sick. And I got so sick that I begged my way out of my contract. I was crying. I said, I'm gonna kill myself if I don't leave Hollywood. And I meant it, and that was the way I got out of my contract. I threw all of my stuff in my car, drove to Portland, Oregon, to drop out forever and become a kale farmer. I was like, done. I was done. I was in Portland for 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks before I signed on with an ad agency to make another TV show. This time it was one that was closer to my heart. And what I did this time around was I made sure, like damn sure, I was working on my own projects on the side. And eventually that ad agency, Wieden & Kennedy, became the primary funder of my short film and an executive producer on my show. So, yeah. The point of this nuclear bomb analogy is really that urgency, that life or death feeling right there, that feeling is what has propelled me through the hardest parts of this journey. There have been so many times I could have given up. I have been offered so many outs, jobs and support roles, other careers, giving up. I mean, being a hippie, like moving to the mountains, eating bear meat. There were so many options, okay? But this feeling is what got me through. I had a great older director pull me aside once and say, look, kid, if there's anything else you can imagine doing, for God's sake, go do it. This is gonna be awful for you. It's gonna be awful. And, you know, he was sweet. It was really heartwarming advice, but I didn't do that. So I had the passion and the drive in spades. And actually, you know, some people might say too much. I was kind of always told I was too intense. Back to urgent cries ignored. So I had to figure out how to take all that passion and drive and make people want to work with me instead of kill me, okay? So that brings me to George Clooney. Okay, so why George Clooney, you ask, right? Why? He's smooth, he's a gentleman, you know? But truly, I am like living obsessed with gender and work, and especially male swagger at work. So this is a story of how I accidentally experimented with this idea. This is something that happened. Okay, so as I was gearing up to make my short film, I realized that I needed a lawyer. And not like my Uncle Al looking at my apartment lease, right? I needed a full-on Hollywood lawyer. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, I feel like this crowd might, but to get a real lawyer in Hollywood as a no one is a big deal. It's kind of like getting an agent. So I lied my way into a meeting, okay? I vastly exaggerated my relationship with an important producer, and a temp was working the front desk that day. And I had this moment of just sort of like, I'm just gonna do it, I'm just gonna try it. And I found myself with this meeting that I had like no business having. And I panicked and I almost canceled, but something wouldn't let me do it. So I thought through, I'm like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna wear? What am I gonna say? What the fuck did I do? I'm like, should I borrow a Birkin bag? Or like rent a limo? I don't know what. I was like, what do I need like Chanel flats, right? Or I was like, I need to be like really rich or something. And then I thought about it more, and I thought about what is the most extravagant accessory that any woman can have, right? That no one does. A straight, white, educated male in his prime with nothing better to do than be my assistant. So I called my friend Brendan from the band Main Streak. And I said, can I borrow your male privilege for a day? He, being like the full-on career ally, right? Lifelong ally. It's like, of course. But then I had to figure out what we were going to do. I didn't even know what the fuck that meant. So I was like, so I thought through, during my years in reality TV and advertising, I had observed that men and women tend to behave very differently in meetings. Sheryl Sandberg has been writing this amazing op-ed series in the New York Times about this. But in my experience, creative men, these genius guys, tend to sit pretty far back in their chairs, usually spread their legs, sometimes put their hands behind their heads, and in really extreme cases that I have definitely been a part of, put their feet on the table, right? The really powerful ones, like crazy powerful creative genius, will wear sweatpants that show their butt crack and flip-flops, okay? Women, on the other hand, tend to bring notebooks and laptops, take copious notes, stay pretty quiet, and volunteer to do the crap work. I'm serious. This is you should read the Sheryl Sandberg thing. Volunteer to make all the phone calls, stay late, do the extra work. And in general, they are the multitasking helper people that enable these creative geniuses to bring their vision to life. And what's really hard and sad when you become acculturated that way, as I did when I was working in advertising, you sometimes wear your exhaustion as a badge of honor. You compete with each other for who is working harder and who stayed later, which is so fucked up. And the guys take the lion's share of the credit. So what I decided Brendan and I were going to do was flip that on its head. Okay? The day of the meeting, we met at a restaurant down the street. I wore the fucking craziest outfit. I had my hair piled on my head, bright red lipstick, and a handbag, giant handbag for no reason. I think I stuffed sweaters in it. There wasn't even really stuff to put in it. And then I told Brendan to get me drunk. Because I wanted to go to the meeting drunk. Because I was going to be the disheveled, crazy genius that had to be handled. And Brendan was going to be my subservient, note-taking helper. Okay? I also told him that they were going to try and deal with him. They were going to try and make eye contact with him. He was to refuse all eye contact. He was to speak when spoken to and answer logistical questions only. Okay? This guy is such a sport. Wait, I think there's a picture. This is us at the restaurant. This is us at the restaurant. I'm covering my lipstick. It's too bad. I have a lot of lipstick on. We're getting ready. So the time for the meeting comes and we walk into the office. Brendan, who's here and 6'2", walks in carrying my bag, binders, business cards, pens, eyes lowered, right? Behind me. I swagger in drunk without a wallet. I wasn't carrying anything. Baller! They show us into the conference room. We're seated on one side of the table. They make us wait, of course. Then big attorney and his associate walk in. They sit on the other side of the table. Big attorney sits down, spreads his legs, okay? Puts his hands behind his head and says, so, tell me about yourself. I just said a couple drunk things about a filmmaker from Portland and whatever, and he goes, what the He's like, how did you get in here? And I just deadpan, I made an appointment. He was like, what the fuck? So exactly as expected, they turned their gaze to Brendan. What for an answer? What is going on? Brendan would not look at them. He was writing notes about nothing. Nobody was talking. Nobody was even talking. He was writing notes. it finally got so uncomfortable, they were forced to shift their gaze back to me and actually deal with me. We talked a little bit more about the project. I was drunk, but I could talk about it. And I could see their interest growing, like, who the fuck is this girl? Like, just staring at me, looking at Brendan, who wouldn't look at them. Like, this is someone. How do we not know about her? Like, who is this, right? Finally, the big attorney totally testing me goes, we need a $5,000 retainer. I didn't skip a beat, no problem. I was lying through my lipstick stains. I didn't have a dime to my name. I didn't know where I was going to find the money, right? No problem. Then he goes, how much longer are you in town? I go, I don't know. Attorney Brendan, how much longer am I in town? Brendan looked up to me and goes, you're here till Tuesday. And I turned back to them and go, I'll leave Tuesday. And that's how I got a lawyer. He doesn't know this story. We've actually gone on to have like a great relationship, but if he ever sees this, it's going to be insane. Okay, so that's the fun part. So here's the tough love part of the talk, and I'm just going to keep this picture up. So Hollywood is not a charity, and it's not a public university. They don't owe us anything, right? It's actually a very privileged, mostly white club. And I really had to think about that before I agreed to give this talk, because I wasn't really sure this is a problem that mattered. Like, is this an idea worth sharing? It's such a privileged club. And then I thought about it, and I realized that we've already tried having only white men tell our stories. We really have tried that. And you can look to Mad Men and realize that everyone got lung cancer and tried to strangle their babies with dry cleaning bags or something, right? It's like not a good time. So I decided, yes, this matters. This totally matters. But no, seriously, as female directors, we need to make business sense. We need to prove that not only can we hang in the big leagues, but we also provide a product that they can't get anywhere else. Premium cable networks like HBO, Showtime, and AMC have created a demand for this really sort of nuanced storytelling with complex characters that are often flawed. And women have an incredible track record of providing that content, like Girls, Transparent, Orange is the New Black. But for some reason, it's still impossible to break in. So I really thought about why that is, and the only thing that I came to is that it's prejudice, plain and simple. And again, this ACLU lawsuit is really helpful in validating that that is what's going on. And the thing is, there's no affirmative action here, right? Sorry, ladies, no free handouts. We're just going to hire the right person for the job, regardless of gender. Okay, we have to. It's big, big business. But then I thought about it, and I realized that is like absolutely not what we're doing. We are not hiring the right person for the job, regardless of gender. We are hiring a guy for the job because he looks like the last guy we hired. You guys, I'm in these meetings, okay? I'm not making this up. We are ignoring 50% of our resources as a business, and that's really, really bad business. So the important thing for me about this is that I go to all kinds of workshops and seminars. I've been in so many programs and stuff about what we have to do to change as female directors. But what I really want to say today is that they have to change, okay? The funny thing now is that I am one of those theys a lot of the time. I am in the meetings when we're talking about directors. I'm helping make lists. I'm contributing my ideas. One of the biggest fears about female directors is that they won't be able to control their crews. They're mostly male crews, putting the production into millions of dollars of overtime, et cetera. You want to know what? It's really bad business to hire somebody who can't run a set. That's not a good idea, okay? I don't personally believe that about female directors, but if the crew and the decision makers do believe that, that's a really big problem. But what I want to say is that we have a ton of control over that, okay? If we want to hire a female director because she's the right fit for the project, we actually have the option to set her up for success instead of throwing her to the wolves. And I'm talking like firsthand, I know this. We need to anticipate the prejudice against her. Get ready to head it off at the pass. You can preemptively go to your department heads and say, oh my God, I can't believe we got this director. I'm so excited, she's really hard to book. I think her episode's gonna be amazing. That will trickle down. If the leaders say it's important for this to work, they will try and make it work. Maybe your director of photography offhandedly says to you, this has happened to me, I don't know, it just seems like she doesn't really know what she wants. You can just say, wow, that really hasn't been my experience with her. Fuck you, basically. But as long as that stuff is true, you just have to stand up for her. The really good part about this, though, is that the prejudice is so predictable that it's super easy to anticipate. So I actually made a glossary. Oh, wait, this is like how I don't look like the part, whatever. Here's our glossary. Okay, female adjective is emotional. So is Oliver Stone. Should we take him off the list? Another word you can replace that with is passionate. Yeah, she's really passionate. Difficult, okay? This is tough, difficult. Unflinching, unwavering. Now, this one actually is not funny, you guys, because a female director being called difficult once can get her blacklisted for life. This is not a joke, this one. One thing I thought about is the way that women tend to navigate conflict, because conflict is inevitable on film sets. One of the complaints is that they're passive-aggressive, they're not direct. I think that can get interpreted as difficult, because people can't figure out how to negotiate with her. And that's one that I'll talk about more. Intense, kind of required in directors, yeah, visionary, wishy-washy, this is a big one. I one time had to make a change because something had actually changed in a script, and I heard the guys at the bar that night talking about how indecisive I was. I was like, I don't think I was unclear. I just said do it again. So that's a big one. You can swap that out for intuitive or think on her feet. The other thing is that I hear people complain about the product that female directors make being mediocre or weak in general. They're just not making strong enough content. What I want to say about that is, what exactly did you think was going to happen when you blacklisted every female genius for being difficult? What did you think was going to happen? Creative people can be difficult, you guys. There's a vocabulary for it with men. It's glorified. Passion and creativity is glorified in men. We have to invent a vocabulary for women. I think another really big challenge to change is young mid-level creatives like myself being scared to lose credibility with their bosses by bringing up these female hires. As we know, this credibility is hard-won. It's utterly precious. I was actually terrified to give this talk because one of the best ways to guarantee you will never be hired as a female director is to talk about it. But it's that important to me. Sorry, I'm gonna, I think the fear with all of this is that it will make us look weak, idealistic, soft, and naive when we work so hard to prove that we aren't. I don't know if you guys know about this image. This is the first woman who tried to run a marathon. They tackled her. They actually tackled her. They ripped her clothes off, and she kept running. Be brave. Sorry, I didn't expect this. Be brave. Sometimes people aren't ready for change. Sometimes we have to usher it in. Make female directors make business sense. Shift the prejudice in smart, subtle ways and not subtle ways. Set your female hires up for success. She's worked so hard and so long to get here. Chances are she's going to kill it for you. I also hope that every single thing I've said today is irrelevant in 5 years. That there are so many working directors that we don't even have to talk about this crap, allies, glossaries, language games, that we just get to work. But for now, all I can think of to do is storm the castle, hire each other, protect each other, lean on your allies, work very, very hard, be excellent, be better, be the absolute best, be nuclear and never give up. Thank you. Thank you.